on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, Fios Channel 964. We are joined this evening by some interpreters, Erica Perez, Carolina Perez, Wei Gao, and Melissa Lowe, who will be translating this meeting in Spanish, Mandarin, and Cantonese. I'm going to pause here to let them introduce themselves. To my colleagues, please make sure that when you speak, you do so slowly so that they have time to translate in live time. If the interpreters could now introduce themselves.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Erica Perez, and I will be the Spanish-English interpreter. And for those of you, if you will have someone in Spanish, so please click at the bottom of your screen a little bit. You'll see a little glove. Click in English to hear the Spanish speaker. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Erika Pérez. Yo voy a ser la intérprete de esta noche del inglés al español y viceversa. Si usted está utilizando su computadora, por favor, haga clic en el globito para escuchar español. Thank you. All set.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm now going to go to our Cantonese interpreter.
大家好，咁我哋今日咧係有現場嘅廣東話翻譯。咁如果大家係需要翻譯嘅話咧，咁稍後啦，或者而家咧喺你嘅屏幕下底，你會見到有個地球儀嘅按鍵。大家請點擊你地球儀嗰個按鍵，咁跟住咧就有不同語言嘅選擇。選擇廣東話咧，大家可以選擇 Cantonese， 咁跟住咧就會直接將你轉到去廣東話嘅頻道。多謝。
Thank you. And if we can now hear from our Mandarin interpreter.
Yeah, hi, this is Hui Gao. I'm the Mandarin interpreter. 大家晚上好，我叫高慧，我是今天晚上的普通话的口译。请大家如果需要听那个普通话的话，到你的屏幕下面点击那个地球仪，然后呢选择中文，选择 Chinese， 然后呢就可以听到普通话的口译。谢谢大家参会。
Thank you so much. Thank you. This meeting is to hear public testimony regarding redistricting from residents of District 1, District 2, and District 9. It's possible you're here from another district because this is the final in a series of redistricting conversations. That is okay. Everybody is allowed to testify today, even if you do not reside in District 1, District 2, or District 9. If you are interested in testifying, please email Michelle, Michelle.a.goldberg, Goldberg, @boston.gov for the link. I'm joined by my council colleagues. Today, Councillor Ed Flynn from District 2, Councillor Liz Braden from District 9, who's also the Vice Chair of the Redistricting Committee, Councillor Rusi Louis-Jen at large. I will now turn it over to my council colleagues for some brief opening remarks. As chair, I'm going to allow the councillors whose districts are the focus of today's meeting to go first, starting with Councillor Flynn, then Councillor Braden, and finally Councillor Louis-Jen, and then the rest of my colleagues by order of arrival. Councillor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the important work that you're doing on this issue. Also want to say thank you to our city council colleagues as well, to residents of Boston that have been engaged in this process, along with civil rights groups in various community organizations across the city. Want to also highlight the important work City Council Central staff does as well. This is a listening session. I'm here to listen to the concerns and comments of my constituents of District 2. And what's important for me and for my constituents, just to highlight a little bit about District 2. It's one of the most diverse districts in the city. I also have probably the largest Asian community in Boston, probably the most number of residents living in public housing, and probably the largest immigrant community as well, and large Spanish-speaking community. I'm proud to represent this district. Want to keep representing my constituents the best I can, especially our immigrant neighbors, and making sure that they are treated fairly and with respect. But again, this is about the constituents and their opportunity to speak. So I'm here to listen. I want to say thank you to the chair, Councilor Arroyo, and I want to say thank you to the vice chair as well, Councilor Braden, and to our colleagues. So I'm going to stop there and just and say thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn, and thank you for being mindful of the interpreters in the pace of your speech. I'm now going to turn it over to Councilor Liz Braden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for hosting this community opportunity for our communities to weigh in on the whole issue about redistricting. It's a very important discussion, and I'm really here to listen and hear what people's concerns are and how we might ensure a fair and appropriate redesign of our districts as within the remit of what we are being charged to do. So I look forward to the conversation, and thank you for chairing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. And I'm going to pass it over to Councilor Louis Jen before we head into the slides. The floor is yours, Councilor Louis Jen, if you would like to speak. Okay, then we will go to the screen sharing, and councilors will have a chance again to make comments on redistricting or whatever they'd like to speak on post the slideshow, and then we'll go to community testimony. So Carrie, whenever you're ready. Thank you. And so welcome to the third and last of our 3 district-centered public listening sessions on 2022 redistricting. As I mentioned in the meeting opening, my name is Councilor Arroyo, and I'm the chair of the Redistricting Committee. If we can move to the next slide. The committee has hosted 3 public listening sessions over the last 3 weeks, each one on a Thursday, each one focused on a set of districts. Tonight, we will be focusing on public testimony in districts 1, 2, and 9. If you were not able to attend the session for your district that occurred prior to this date, you can visit the City of Boston's redistricting website for previously recorded sessions and for information. You can also provide written testimony to the committee to be included as part of the record. And you can also testify tonight by emailing michelle.a.goldberg@boston.gov. These sessions are an opportunity for the public to express their concerns and priorities on the redistricting process. You can go to the next slide. We have other important dates that I would like folks to keep in mind. We will begin holding hearings on the redistricting process this summer, which will also include more opportunities for public testimony. You will have a chance to have your voice heard again. The new legislative district map that will come out of the committee process will go into effect in November of 2023. And so that's when the new redistricting lines will take effect. Redistricting is the process of drawing lines of districts from which public officials are elected. If you look at the slide in front of you, you'll see the City of Boston sort of color-coded. Those are the different districts as they currently exist. The Boston City Council is responsible for the redistricting process at the municipal level. Districts are redrawn according to census data and remain in place for 10 years. So the last time that this happened was 2010. The most recent census is 2020, so they happen every 10 years, and so this is that 10-year mark. The goal of redistricting is to reflect population changes as recorded by the census, and to ensure racial diversity in the ways in which our city is represented. Next slide. The way that this process works is that districts are redrawn with precincts as the smallest unit. Using the 2020 census data, the committee will work to redraw districts with equal populations. Our maps will need to avoid excessive deviation in populations between districts, as well as follow rules set out by the Voting Rights Act. And some of those rules, just to be clear, is an unequal population, which would be an excessive deviation. In other words, a district that has more people by a large margin than other districts, or has less people by a wide margin than other districts. And also cracking and packing. Cracking is when you take communities that are made up of a specific ethnicity or race or some unifying factor, and you crack it, you split it into multiple districts. That's illegal. Packing is when you do the opposite. It's when you center them all in one district and lower their ability to have political power. That's also illegal. There we go. This is a sample breakdown of the population changes from 2010 to 2020. You can find these on the census website and also on our committee's redistricting website. And this just demonstrates the growth as counted by the census from 2010 to 2020 in Boston. Next slide. Thank you. Our committee will be hosting all of our hearings and working sessions virtually until further notice. We're committed to an open and transparent process, so all maps will be posted publicly for review and comment. We don't have any of those yet, and we won't have any until the summer. We are committed to ensuring that these things will be posted publicly for review and comment. Our redistricting website is officially live. It includes dates and times for future public listening sessions and other resources, and it will be updated through the process and as future sessions are scheduled. You can visit that website at www.boston.gov/departments/city/council/2022-redistricting-Boston. And with that, I'm going to give councilors a chance if they would like to speak now on anything that they've heard, if they have any questions specifically, or we will go to public testimony. Our central staff has let me know that we have 4 folks signed up right now for public testimony tonight. I'm going to ask when we do go to public testimony that you please state your name and place of residence. Make sure that your Zoom profile name matches up with the name with which you've signed up to testify so that we can pull you into the Zoom. And please make sure to speak slowly so that interpreters have time to translate. And so before I head off to public testimony, I just want to do a quick temperature check with the counselors and see if they'd like to ask any questions or if they would like to go to public testimony and then respond after that. It looks like public test. Do you have a question, Councilor Flynn?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, my question is, if the public wants to weigh in and make some recommendations on what they would like to see, they might not be on this meeting tonight. What would they do to make sure that their voices are heard, whether it's an email or a letter? But they should address it to you, and does that also get forwarded to the our colleagues as well?
So any testimony, written or otherwise, becomes part of the public record. You can send it to let me just make sure I give you can certainly send it to me at ricardo.arroyo.gov. I want to make sure I give, and if you send it to Michelle A. Goldberg at boston.gov, that will work as well. I want to make sure I get the redistricting committee email, and I'll share that after we do the public testimony. But there's multiple ways to do it. Another way to do it is if you have an opinion on redistricting and you know who your city councilor is, feel free to email that city councilor, whether it's Councilor Flynn, Councilor Braden, or any of your at-large councilors, and I'm certain they will also make sure that it gets to me in the committee, and we will submit it there as well. And so those are places where we can do that. And then finally, to email the committee itself, that is ccc.redistricting@boston.gov. And so I see Councilor Louis is also on camera now. I want to make sure, Councilor Flynn, does that answer that question?
Yes, Councilor Royal, it does. And again, I know we both highlighted it, but I'm really impressed that we have various translators, interpreters on tonight. It's very helpful, and that's an important part of the redistricting process is language access. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our City Council Central staff team for making sure that this is a priority.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. I just want to say to folks, this is not the last time that folks will be able to testify or write written testimony. What I want to do as the chair of redistricting is make sure that we give communities an opportunity this early in the process to have their voice heard, to raise concerns, or to say what they would hope to see in a redistricting process. As we move forward with the redistricting process, as we put together maps, there will be multiple chances for folks to speak and give public testimony orally, but also to write letters to the committee and to your councilors to have your voice heard. And so we are going to do our utmost to be as accessible and as transparent with our communities as possible. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ruth C. I hope that I am moving at a pace that accommodates our interpreters. I'm grateful to all of you for what you are, the services you are providing today. Councilor Louis Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about earlier, but I just wanted to say good evening. I'm happy that we're having this conversation. Also really encouraged by the language interpreters, really excited, to be having this conversation around redistricting. We know that a lot of times our communities, especially communities of color, their power gets diluted when we're not being careful and we're not being intentional. So I care about making sure that our communities, all communities feel like they get their representation, but they're also building political power for communities of color that have often been historically excluded from this process. So happy to be here and happy to be listening to public testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. And so with that, I'm going to go to our public folks who are going to give public testimony, starting with Lydia Lowe. I believe it's Tom Reedy, but please correct me on the name if I mispronounce it. Jerry Batamala and Sarah McCammond. So we'll start with Lydia Lowe once folks are in and ready. So Lydia Lowe, the floor is yours. Please try to be measured in your statement so that the interpreters can get it. Because I care about that, I want to make sure that you know that there's no time restraint on this. However, I'm not going to let folks go for like 10 minutes, but I want you to be able to get what you have to say out. And so, Lydia Lowe, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak about redistricting tonight. My name is Lydia Lowe, and I'm a board member of Chinese Progressive Political Action, a political advocacy organization that works for the empowerment of the Chinese community. We are particularly known for our voter education and organizing work in Chinatown, but we in fact have members throughout the city and also the greater Boston area. And I might be one of a few people, a small number of people that's been through this process before, more than once. So first, I want to say that I'm very glad that the city is finally redrawing precinct lines, which had not been done for many decades, and suggest that even before those precinct lines are finalized, I think we can begin to use the census data to start thinking about the districts and how to rebalance them. Second, I want to say that it's important that we take the fullest possible public process So I really appreciate this session. At the same time, I know that a lot of people are just not tuned into this and not aware. And it's not anybody's fault, I think, but it's just one of those things that people don't know that much about. So I think we need to make an extra effort to really educate our communities. And, I think our community groups will be happy to help so that people know what redistricting is about, why it's important. And I hope that you can continue to hold public hearings, after we're able to do more of that outreach to allow for more participation. I think it's really important, very core principles of fairness, like you talked about, in terms of, thinking about the population changes, about districts, being drawn in a way that it makes sense, having common communities of interest, and keeping neighborhoods intact. I noticed from the information that you shared that Asian Americans are the fastest growing population in the city. So we're particularly interested in that fact. And in light of that, we think it's really important, to look at that when we look at redrawing the districts and improving opportunities for political representation and influence by historically underrepresented communities, that includes Asian Americans, despite the fact that we do have an Asian American mayor. But, in many ways, she's the exception rather than the rule. And therefore, we'd like to ask that in looking, we don't have a specific map drawn or, plan for what we want to do with the districts. I think in particular, looking at Chinatown and District 2, we would ask that we really keep together the core concentrations of the Asian American and immigrant populations in the district, including the core precincts of Chinatown, like 3-8 and 5-1, but also, thinking about some of the other racially diverse precincts in that district, like 6-1, 8-1, 9-1, maybe reuniting with other precincts that might have been lost in the process last time. Again, it's just this is early in the process. So I think that we would like to engage in really digging into that data and looking at maps together with the council. We had actually, one of the suggestions that we have made, and I'd like to make tonight, is that we think it would be a great idea if a community commission or committee, an advisory role could be appointed by the council to actually have an independent body that looks at the redistricting process with an independent lens, because it's inevitable that every counselor has their own interests. And as much as, I'm sure that everybody here really wants to work for the goal of fair redistricting, it's just different to have, fresh eyes who look at it, only from their point of view as community members. So that's just a proposal that we'd like to make, that a committee like that could be set up of community members interested that could come up with some map proposals to share with the council in for your consideration. And I think that's all that I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comments tonight. Next is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Tom Reedy.
Hi, Council. It's Tom Reddy. Thank you.
Okay, so it's literally the most obvious. Just read it as it's written.
No worries. I live at 21 Willamette Street in District 2. I'd start my first. I have a series of questions and then maybe a comment or two, if you wouldn't mind. First, I'm gonna hitchhike on a point that Lydia made. Re-precincting is it's one of the fundamental building blocks, the precincts, right, to this process. And so we're in the midst of re-precincting. My particular Ward 6, was extensively re-precinct. How does that factor into the timeline that has been laid out by the city?
So the re-precincting should be hopefully getting finalized this month. That's the election department. So it's separate and apart from the redistricting. Essentially means that until they finalize those precincts, though, we can't even do a draft map because the precincts wouldn't make sense. And so we are essentially waiting for the elections department to complete that. I expect they will complete that this month, but it shouldn't play because of where they're doing the re-precincting. I don't believe it's going to play much of a role when we get into deciding where the lines align on these new maps when we eventually get to that part of the process.
Thank you. Second, the census data source, the current website points you to the BPDA. I think it's probably important that clarity is provided. I'm assuming this is using the 2021 August redistricting data summary file from the U.S. Census. I believe that's probably,
yeah, I believe that's the case.
Okay, there's been an awful lot of discussion of late in the press around inaccuracies in data counts with the census. That file doesn't accommodate any of those potential miscounts or errors in count, and I just think it's important that for anybody that participates in the process, that clarity is there. Otherwise, anyway, right? Some people may think certain parts of the city were undercounted. And that regardless of point of view, it's that data file that's going to be used.
And I'll just say I'm one of those people. I mean, I don't think without a question, we know that there are parts of the city that were undercounted. We're sort of constrained to what the census data gives us when we're building our maps. But I mean, it should just be understood as fact that we did not get a complete count of the city of Boston. And I agree that with what we do have, that should be as readily apparent and transparent as possible and accurate as possible.
Agreed. And then to that point, there's a tremendous amount of data interpretation tooling available on the census.gov website that I hope the city's taking advantage of as they go through the process. Links to that information I would recommend be provided on the City Council's redistricting webpage. So for the data nerds that want to get into that level of interpretation and data analysis, they can go off and download the data file and actually begin the process of playing around, right?
Yes, and so the website is still a work in progress. I don't know that we've ever done one before. And so, you know, the inspiration actually was the House did a really good job with their website on redistricting. And so we want something that's a similarly good tool set for folks on the municipal level. And also, just to be clear, we will be using the 2020 census count, not the BPDA data counts. But I do want to give folks on the website as much access to as much data and information as it is to all levels. So if we have somebody who really just wants to come in and get a surface level understanding of redistricting, that's readily accessible to them. But if we have somebody who really wants to dig in, that's accessible to them as well.
Yeah, the challenge becomes, how does somebody easily understand population demographics within a particular precinct or census tract that's mapped to a particular city council or district? The easier that's done, the better. Otherwise, I guess, again, to Lydia's point, it becomes complex for residents to understand. Simpler is better. So somehow that has to be sorted out. And I certainly hope that as council works with Do IT, the IT team, they can find a way of doing that, right?
Yes, that's the hope. And then we share that goal.
Okay. I guess my last point would kind of be, well, two questions. One question, one point. Is one of the intentions, because it clearly was an intention at the state level, to analyze and ensure there's equity with regard to majority minority districts. Is that a stated intention of at the city level for redistricting, or does council feel currently that the district lines are cater to the ability for representative elected officials based upon how those district lines are drawn?
I think that's definitely a focus, is making sure that, I think in the past, in 2010, and the map was actually passed in 2011, the focus was on creating more equitable racial diversity and opportunities for representation. The current council certainly reflects that succeeded. And so the idea here is to recalibrate the map based off the data we have as necessary to ensure that we're continuing that mission moving forward, which I think is a just mission, is the right way to do this, is the way that we should be looking at this. And so that's the goal.
And then lastly, and apologies for the background noise, I'm kind of out. It's currently perceived that the process will all be done virtually. I certainly, and the use of technology has allowed the city to continue to operate while we're in the midst of the pandemic. I certainly hope that this committee rethinks just a virtual formatted approach and actually considers getting out into the community, having face-to-face meetings in particular neighborhoods, and takes input directly for folks that just aren't comfortable using technology or don't have access to it. So
I appreciate that, and rest assured that we will be doing that. The goal is to begin in earnest with the redistricting process in June, after the budget has passed, after we have put the budget into the mayor's hands. We will focus again on this, and at that time, it's my hope, where we are with COVID willing, if we continue to be in a place where the numbers allow us to do it, the hope is to do community outreach in that way. Ideally, these would be community outreach sort of meetings, but also to host in-person sort of hybrid, if possible, hearings where people who are better served by appearing in public and able to give testimony online are able to do so. And so we will visit all kinds of methods of accessibility when we really begin in earnest this summer. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor.
No problem. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time. Jerry, is it Guatemala?
Yes. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
So, yeah, I was one of the few folks that testified 10 years ago, so I'm happy to do so again. And thank you for the opportunity to testify on this really important matter. My name is Jerry Guatemala. I'm the director of the Democracy Program with the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, or ALDEF for short. ALDEF is a 48-year-old nonpartisan legal organization that protects and promotes the civil rights of Asian Americans through nation, advocacy, and community education. In the area of voting rights, we challenged previous redistricting plans that diluted minority voting strength in numerous jurisdictions. We've defended the voting rights of Asian Americans for over four decades. We wanted to testify tonight to set forth our views on how the council can ensure that Asian Americans have an opportunity to participate fully in the redistricting process and develop plans that will provide all voters with an equal opportunity to elect candidates of their choice in accordance with the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the U.S. Constitution. Asian Americans nationwide have grown rapidly in every decade since the repeal of discriminatory immigration quotas in 1965, and Census 2020 revealed a tremendous surge in the number of Asian Americans across the country, as well as in the city of Boston. The Asian American growth outpaced total growth of many cities and counties in which they reside. Asian Americans reside in large numbers in particular neighborhoods, including Chinatown and Fields Corner in Dorchester. It's imperative that the council take seriously its obligation to comply fully with the Voting Rights Act and ensure that racial minorities have a full and fair opportunity to elect candidates of their choice in newly drawn districts. The U.S. Supreme Court has recognized that race can be one of several factors considering the drawing of district lines, together with other traditional redistricting criteria, including preserving communities of interest. Courts have specifically recognized the following factors and shared community concerns in analyzing whether community of interest exists, including cultural background, common media markets, common language and dialects, and common country of origin. Several Asian American communities throughout Boston share common cultural backgrounds, common languages, and country of origin, and should be kept whole in new city council districts to the extent possible. Specifically, Fields has a large Vietnamese American community that's encompassed mostly in the 3rd district, and Chinatown, as Lydia mentioned, is a large Chinese American community and is currently encompassed mostly in the 2nd city council district. I urge the commission and the city council to take a close look at these neighborhoods and ensure that Asian American communities are kept together and not splintered or divided among newly drawn districts. The right to vote is fundamental, and we must ensure that this constitutional right is protected for Asian Americans and all Bostonians. The council should abide by the Voting Rights Act and ensure that racial minorities have a full and fair opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. I do want to mention a couple of things to conclude. I want to echo Lydia's suggestion about the community commission or committee. I think that would be a really great idea to have an entity that would be sort of impartial and could look at things in a different way that could hopefully be a resource to the council as well as to the public. And also, you know, we had met with community-based organizations over the summer. You know, we met with several groups within the API's CAN collaborative, which has been, you know, very active. A lot of them are doing a lot of great civic engagement work. And we met to identify the community of interest boundary lines, like down to the street. So we will be submitting those to you so you have an idea of what these communities of interest are, where the boundaries are. And these boundaries are determined community, right? This is where they feel their neighborhood starts and where it ends, right? And as I mentioned in my testimony, race is one of many factors. There's so many other things also in addition to race that find these communities of interest and make them in fact communities of interest. And one easy way to assess maps or any proposed maps, one of the first things we do, and we encourage you to do this too, is to superimpose those community of interest boundaries over any draft plan that you have to have a, you know, a pretty quick assessment to see if those communities are being divided or not. And so I'd encourage you to do that. We will be doing that and analyzing the map to see if it is, in fact, allowing the community to have an equal opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. And that's what this is about, is just empowering the community to have an equal voice and equal opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. That's still a big problem for many Asian American communities across the country, but, you know, even right here in Boston. Yes, the mayor is Asian American, which is you know, really an exception to the rule, as Lydia mentioned. And looking back at my testimony from 10 years ago, you know, I did say we had no Asian American representation at the city council, and it's nice to see some progress with you know, the current mayor. But, you know, we want to keep going in the right direction. So again, thank you for this opportunity to testify and be part of the process.
Thank you so much. I just want to also note that Councilor Mejia is here. Councilor Julia Mejia, City Councilor at Large, is here. I want to give her a brief opportunity to speak if she would like. And I also just want to say to folks as a reminder, which I am constantly trying to remind myself, to speak slower for the interpreters who are doing work. Councilor Mejia, the floor is yours if you'd like to say anything about the redistricting process.
No, I'm just here to listen and to take my marching orders from the community. They're here to help inform, influence, and inspire how we move forward. And so my job here is to listen, and I really do appreciate what I've heard so far and look forward to listening and learning more. Thank you, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. And so now Sarah McCammon, and I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, good evening, Chair Roya and Vice Chair Baden. And it's Sarah McCammond. I am a resident of District 2 living in the Fort Point Channel neighborhood at 15 Channel Center Street. And I appreciate this opportunity to testify before you all. Building upon a couple of comments that have been mentioned previously, I would just like to reiterate what Lydia and Tom mentioned in terms of the importance of educating the public on why we're doing this process, and to Jerry's point, making this as easy as possible in terms of maps and map overlays and data. So I wanted to appreciate that. And then also I wanted to say a little bit about the timing of things. I recognize that you all are going to be very busy with the city council budget, and look forward to participating in those hearings as well. The only caution I would say is, as you look at your summer schedule, just remember that residents, also, are not always as present during the summer, and so maybe early summer is better. But I understand scheduling is quite a challenge. So I would like to raise a shared neighborhood critical concern that may not have been as prevalent in past redistricting efforts, and that is climate change, specifically sea level rise. So as a neighborhood living along the water, we recognize the necessity of district-wide climate resilient solutions to protect our waterfront and our inland neighborhoods and neighbors from flooding. So as you approach redistricting and examining shared neighborhood interests, please also consider keeping together waterfront neighborhood shoreline boundaries in the same way you consider other neighborhood shared interests. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And so at this time, I believe we do have folks who are signed up for public testimony who are not here yet. I would like to give anyone who is joining us late and wants to testify an opportunity to testify. And so email Michelle, Michelle.A.Goldberg, GOLDBERG @boston.gov to give testimony. We are going to take a recess until 7:25 to give folks an opportunity to email and add their name if they would like to testify, and to give folks who have signed up for testimony but are not here to show up. If nobody arrives or nobody else signs up, we will go to closing statements. I want to thank all of our community members who have given such thoughtful input today and taking the time to participate in our system. And how we do this is gives me heart to what this process will look like moving forward and with our community, working hand in hand with us. And so thank you. I want to thank counselors who are here, who are listening to community, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Braden, Councilor Lujan, and Councilor Mejia. And I want to take a recess beginning now. I'm going to give, we'll come back at 7:25, and hopefully folks have logged on or reached out to Michelle.A.Goldberg @boston.gov at that time. I also want to just thank our central staff, Carrie and Michelle, Carrie Jordan and Michelle Goldberg, for making themselves available at this time of the day at 7 of the evening to have community input at a convenient time for community. I appreciate you and all you do to make this possible. So thank you both. And with that, we are in recess until 7:25. So I'm going to call us back now at 7:27 and just ask whether or not anyone who has signed up for public testimony, have they and was not present, have they joined us?
We have not been joined by anyone, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and so I'm going to move for adjournment. I do want to give any counselor who would like to end with a closing statement a chance to speak. So if there is a counselor who would like to just end with a closing statement, please raise your yellow hand and I will give you the floor. Otherwise, I'm going to adjourn. Counselor Mejia.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who spoke. More importantly, I really do appreciate the feedback that Tom provided in regards to community engagement and outreach. So I look forward to working in partnership with you, Councilor Arroyo, on some of that work. You know, I'm always all about going into the streets and working to engage those who are least likely, but mostly will be impacted by these decisions. So looking forward to working in partnership with you. Just thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. I don't see any other counselors as hands raised, and so I'm going to now adjourn. I want to thank everybody who has tuned in. I want to thank everybody who's given public testimony. There will be multiple opportunities to be heard. If you are watching a recording of this and not a live video of this, a live feed of this, please send, if you would like to be heard on this, please send a letter to ccc.redistricting@boston.gov, and we will include your comments in the public record. And so at any time that you see this and you would like to participate, please just send a written testimony to ccc.redistricting@boston.gov. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.